Mark.
Hey, brother, what's up?
Oh, it's so good to see you, dude. I love your
Nice to
hat.
meet you. Thanks, bro.
Dude, I think there's going to be a lot more hat wearing folk, don't you think? For a while.
Oh man, yeah, well, you don't get a haircut on a regular basis.
Yeah. No, it's super embarrassing. Like what's going on under here it's never been this
Yeah,
this
no,
unplanned.
no. And I usually hit the barber like every 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh,
So
you're a diligent dude looking sharp, I'm sure.
I haven't been since around the 1st of March. So
So I think it was March 8th I was supposed to go.
uh-huh.
And I didn't go. And I was like, I really feel like I should get this haircut. Maybe this thing that's happening might make it hard to. I had the thought.
Right.
I
Yeah.
needed, and I didn't
Well,
act on it. Those are what we call the ingredients of regret. That's how you get there. So tell me about where you're at, because you and I have one of my favorite relationships, because I know a few people that I know, like I know you, which is we worked together on a project and only really crossed paths for a very short period of time. But
yeah.
due to the wonders of social media, we've known each other much longer than we ever were in each other's presence. Uh,
Yeah, this is
is
probably the first time we've seen each other in how many years?
I know, right? We're
Yeah.
almost like the cast of the Goonies. Um, so it's almost the same thing.
I
Uh,
shudder to think who I'm supposed to be, but I don't know.
I could go down and riff, and
Yeah.
I'd cut it out eventually and be unsatisfied with what I came up with. Um, no, we worked in Atlanta at Georgia Shakespeare.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Georgia Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And at Oglethorpe, and I was a little baby college student with a bum knee, and you were playing like 6 roles in like 9 plays, and
There was a few. There was a few. Yeah, it was good. You were there. You were there during Antony and Cleopatra, Tempest, that and Noises Off. Yeah, that was my first season with them.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was a good time.
me too, and the last. So
Oh dear.
it was, well, I really upset everyone, you know.
Did you really?
No, absolutely not. I have nothing to back that up. I did. This is an interesting story just to say about Georgia Shakespeare, because I often talk to people about how light of a drinker I am. I
Mhm.
really just don't drink at all. I like the taste of a few beverages, but I've not even in my 20s or teenager did I have the capacity to like get intoxicated on
Right.
alcohol. It was never my
Sure.
thing. Plenty of other stuff, just
Yeah.
not on
Yeah.
that one.
Same here.
So there's a ritual when you do the tech days at Georgia Shakespeare where all the directors and the technical staff go and they sit out on the porch. We would at that time at that
Right.
place. And Richard Garner, the artistic director, would bring us all around like a beer or a wine, whatever
Right.
you wanted. And it was like,
They
thank you
were
for,
generous about that kind of thing.
they were
Yeah.
pretty cool, man. I mean, it was like, thanks for an 11-hour day. Here's this, which is so funny. I would go on to work in film and television, and they're like, 12 hours.
Yeah.
You think we're done?
No,
Um,
18 is nothing.
yeah. But at the time, I was very at this. Oh, look at this for the 12 hours. Look at this guy. But because it had been a tech day and I just really hadn't eaten much of anything, I had one beer,
Oh no.
and it was like
Um,
I was
to-
sitting next to Ben, the other assistant director, and I was like, we have a small problem. And he was like, what? Just sit here. Like, we're done. And I was like, I don't know how to put this to you or really how to explain it, but I'm wasted.
oh,
I'm like, I'm
yeah.
done. And I was
Done.
like, I can't, if, and you know how like when you're like, I'm feeling toasty, but then you stand up,
Oh,
right? I hadn't even stood up yet. And I knew that when that happened, it was going to be bad.
couple of weeks ago, around Cinco de Mayo, I went down to one of our favorite Mexican places. There's a place just inside of Bellevue. I live outside of Nashville in Pegram, out in the
Mm.
country, and this place called El Sombrero. Excellent food. The people were really sweet. On my birthday, they all gather and sing my happy birthday to me, and yeah, they're just a lovely, lovely group of people. And they were doing takeout, And so I said, well, I want one of your fantastic margaritas. Get me a margarita. It was, like this high. And I brought it home and I waited until I was finished eating. I thought this would be a nice dessert. I'll watch TV and drink a margarita. Dude, I couldn't stand up. I could not stand up.
It's weird
Yeah.
when the math doesn't work out. Like you're like, this is how much even if you do have a fair amount, but you're like, I'm a grown adult and I've eaten some food. Like, sometimes it just, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? What did
Yeah.
they put in it? Like that's,
Yes, exactly.
that's
What
the
did they
thing
do
you
to me?
start thinking. And I remember I was walking with a cane that summer because I had messed up my knee from a
That's
stage
right.
combat
Yeah.
problem, and I had no health insurance. So I had the what they call the CVS cane insurance. It's about $25. You go down to CVS and get you a cane, and so I did that as a solution. And I leaned over to Ben. I was like, "We got a problem, man. I'm wasted at this." There's like people here that I might like to come back to this and not look like an asshole,
Right. Sure.
And he was like, dude, you already walk with a cane.
Oh,
And I was like, word. He was like, I think right now you just like really need that cane. And
yeah.
he was
Right
like,
on.
and I was like, see, this is why we're friends. Friends help each other out.
That's great.
I followed you for all this time because your Facebook account, man, I want to start this by saying if anyone doesn't already know this about me, I hate Facebook. I've deleted it a bunch of times. I've scrubbed it once. I took an old account that I had and just I got an extension from Google Chrome and it goes through and hits like delete yes to everything. So like a
Wow.
manual AI deletion. And I did the whole thing because that was the Cambridge Analytica thing. I was like, I got to get out of this.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
Even having gone away from it for a little while, uh, I end up using it as a tool for one reason or another. And then I start playing the social media game again. I
Right.
start like saying my thoughts and having comments and getting involved. And I was like, I just got on this because it's the
Pulls
only
you back
messenger
in.
for these Android fucks who don't have iPhones. I gotta hit them up on Messenger. But whenever I do come back, inevitably to Facebook, I very early on, you can give people the star, the see first or whatever,
Right.
and they
Sure.
you've been one of my first and only people I've ever done that with. And
Thank
it's
you,
all
sir. I'm
I'm
honored.
like, you bring content to a platform that I hate, that I must engage with, and you're the shining beacon of like, well, you nearly while I'm on there, I'll see something from Bernie Sanders I like. I'll see Mark Cabus call the president some funny name. So how did you get into the whole? Because if anybody listening or watching, your regular, you treat Facebook the way I think a lot of people treat Twitter, which is you are engaging with the news and posting articles on a really obvious that you read them level. Not just reposting. You editorialize and kind of make jokes and stuff like that. Where did that
Right.
come from, and what do you get out of that?
Oh, wow. Well, when Facebook first started, I had a theater company of my own, Naked Stages, that I was running. And it first and foremost seemed like a good place to, now everybody's doing it and trying to promote events and things on it. So it's almost worthless in that perspective. But at the time, it was unique, and people are most folks that I know are Luddites in some sense or another. So they really didn't know how to make Facebook function for them. They just kind of went along for the ride. But what I saw it more as anything was an educational tool. It wasn't something that um, yeah, I mean, there's only so many times people want to see what lunch I had and, what some stupid kitten or dog did. I mean, I just don't care. And what I saw it as was an opportunity because I have such a wide range of interests. And I think that part of the problem we're having in the world at present is that we're not curious. We have a tendency to just be interested in our little corner of the rainbow and not what everybody else is doing. I certainly know that to be true in theater communities around the country, that they're very insulated and insular, and they're not aware. Oh, well, we just did this really cool production of such and such. And I went, well, so people have been doing that for 20 years. Why is that new? It's just new to you. So if I saw it as an opportunity to sort of break, get into people's living rooms and go, hey, look what's happening out there. Um, uh, this is happening in the news. Amazing how ill-informed most Americans are. But look what's happening in art and in theater and in music and in science and all of these other things, other fields, disciplines. I am inquenchably curious. I I spend way too much time on the internet. Um, I think I mentioned this the other day when we were talking on the phone, that I could not begin to imagine who and what I would be had I always had access to the internet.
I think that retroactive question hits so many of us about so many things, and that's what makes it hard for us to predict the right thing to do to help younger generations deal with the fact that
Mhm.
the shit is already here, because we're
Yeah,
like, who are we to tell them the healthiest way to deal with a thing that we couldn't have even fathomed at the
sure,
time? And
sure.
so we're like, oh, this is good for kids and that's bad for kids. And it's like, I don't know. They know how to use the devices our entire lives run on. There's some
Yeah,
value in that.
yeah.
Like, so I don't know. It's certainly a complicated thing, but I think it does sound like you're kind of you're definitely one of like Mark Zuckerberg's like ideal realizations of how to use the app. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because you,
wow.
I think
Okay.
so. I
I
think
hope that's
so.
a good thing.
Well,
Mark
as an
Zuckerberg is turning out to be more and more of a fascist every day, so I'm a little.
well, and I think that you probably will end up falling along the relative lines of his values, so that'll end up fine. You know, he'll be cool with you. But my point is just that like there are so many people who do versions of what you use the app for in what I feel like is a really either unhelpful or harmful way, by like reposting other people's articles without reading them, just taking the headline for it and saying, this is what I've learned from this.
Right.
And some of the articles are like 30 pages, like they're not
Yeah.
short, and there's
No.
investigation from journalists and details, and that all goes by. And the way that you kind of throw in that editorial in the description, and you have all your nicknames for the players and stuff like that you come up with, it shows a nuance of like, not only does this person read the thing that they're talking about, but if I don't totally want to read the whole article, I can cop out by reading what Mark wrote, because at least it's bigger than the headline, for real. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I
Oh,
see
that's
the
true.
headline and I'm like, oh, I want to take that as a piece of information, but what is, I don't, it's a headline.
Sure.
And I'm like, but I don't read about this whole thing. Like, who really gives a shit? And I trust your judgment enough that I'm like,
Well,
well,
bless your
see
heart.
more. What did Mark say? Oh, well, he's calling him a pinhead. So that sounds like I'm sure you've never used that term, but you could imagine.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. The thing that gets aggravating sometimes is there are folks who don't even, they want even more pre-digested feed material. So even what I do post and write is too much for them to want to absorb. And I was thinking about this on the drive here, because the last couple of days I've had people who are like, start quizzing me. So are you saying blah 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 blah? And I went, well, it's in the article. Yeah, I don't want to read that. So yeah, like, okay, first of all, I'm not a subscription. You don't pay for my service. I
Isn't
don't
it
owe you a
interesting?
goddamn thing.
I think social media kind of pointed this out to me, and maybe I would have just figured it out through life if I hadn't had these platforms to kind of see it. But isn't it amazing the kinds of arguments that other people just really want to have? And it seems like no one will have it with them, and no one wants to have that fight. And so they just start jumping into things that are not even really related, or then maybe there's a piece of tie together. And they're like, yeah, but you said the word socialism, and now I want to talk about Venezuela. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that's not what this is about. And it's like, well, fuck you, man, because you posted socialism. And so now I get to talk about Venezuela and you have to defend them. So Maduro, what's up? And
Yeah.
you're just like, that's not how this is supposed to
No.
work. Like,
Talking about food stamps. It has
yeah.
nothing to do with Venezuela and Maduro. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then I get I had this a guy do this a couple of days ago. I posted a story. It was a pretty horrendous story. You may have heard about it. It was in Alabama, a grandmother who streamed live her son-in-law and one-year-old granddaughter having sex. Yeah, like really horrible. She streamed it live. She charged people money for it. Um, and of course, the granddaughter wasn't having, it was the son in law was having sex with his 1 year old daughter. Horrifying. These are people that just need to be burned at the stake. If there was a reason to bring back that kind of punishment, that's a good one. Um, and I posted it because I think we need to be aware that this kind of shit really happens in the world, even in 2020 and just down the road from where we live. And a guy responded, he goes, I don't, I don't want you to post that anymore. Don't post that kind of stuff. Quit posting things that are make me feel bad and blah blah. And he just kind of went down. There was this little rant about this long. And before I even had a chance to respond, one of my good friends wrote back. She went, first of all, he can post whatever he wants. You don't get to determine that. And second, I want to be informed. I know that there is good news in the world, but I also want to know what the bad news is because I want to know what's happening in my world. And he said, yeah, but I really don't need to read that. And then I responded and I said, so you have one of two choices because you have the power. Either don't read it, just ignore it, or unfriend me.
Right.